Welcome to the Great Global Healing Party. I'm Dr. Wendy Rowley, and this is our third year of this event. You'll find the playlist on YouTube, and you'll find a website called the Great Global Healing Party, where before each event of 5 of these a year, free, open for everyone, there's channelings there about the event. This is the third year, and we're healing through the creational level. Tonight's healing theme, and there's information on the website about it, and there's information in the write-up of this playlist more about this for your understanding if you're new to this. The healing theme tonight is the creational dichotomy of your will versus the soul's will. I have been doing some deep diving in meditation to work what comes up over this and to understand what is the difference. We think of the Creator's will and we have our will, but I don't know if I've ever really thought about the soul's will. And I had some revelations finally come in this morning, thank goodness. And I'm going to describe a little spiritual anatomy in order to explain. Some people say it's up in your 7th chakra, but you have an aura that spins backward and can spin back through a timeline through birth. And you can end up in a place called the threshold between this and your last incarnation. If you go straight up from there, that's kind of where the soul hooks in. And there's an area up there that's people referred to as the soul memory data bank. Allaenea and her camp call it the working Akash. It's got the life lessons and the things you came to learn in this lifetime. In that space, there is a soul cell where your soul comes in and hooks into. And below that, I've been aware that there's a parental cell and a karmic cell. And it's kind of like this system. Well, apparently below the soul cell, there's a little cell that's the soul's will, and there's a little cell that's your will. And I believe this is part of the heart field. And I believe if I have this right, maybe I'll be corrected by Allaenea, the soul's will is kind of more on the left side of the heart field, and your will is a little bit more on the right side. So this soul, of course, has connections to our ancient past to what are called soul merges. And this is the area also where some of this type of a thing comes forward or is in that space. So what is a soul merge? A soul merge is when I believe the divine intelligence of the Creator decides, and souls decide that it's for the greater good for two souls to work together in a particular lifetime. They say, for instance, Mary and Jesus were twin souls. And twin souls is sometimes, I think, another word for what they mean by a soul merge. And so what the soul does is and how I have seen some of this is working on twins. Because twins have a soul merge in a type of way. And the soul creates another little soul cell, and then part of both people come into that soul cell. It's fascinating. And so sometimes in the ancient past of golden ages, people think of Lemuria, the ancient epoch of the golden age there, and we've had these golden Renaissance ages. And sometimes some beautiful work is done and people engage in soul merges for that work to do various, healing, bring in new connections. I'm sure I don't even understand all the reasons for that. And I want to give a shout out to the Reiki twins in North Carolina. They have a shop there, I believe. If I'm remembering right, it's in Raleigh. And I just want to say hi, girls. And so we're clearing some of this old energy today at the collective level of large family groups, tribes, and nations from our ancient ancestral past and the human consciousness grid. Apparently, and this party, this healing party, open for free to the public, is like a prototype to show what's possible now. There is healing in this event, And sometimes there's gifts in this event. And it's been described to me like a soul kitchen where there's actually maybe 36 levels of soul energy that people can come in, and their soul within this type of a quantum entanglement state will be giving them particular things or the gifts that are offered that we are told about. But it's described to me as a soul kitchen. And so we are entering apparently a 40-year period where we can really fast track and clean this human consciousness grid. And when you look at healing modalities in the Akashic records, it was mentioned to me by it was mentioned, at first I heard it through Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon. He mentioned I'm going to lose my train of thought. He mentioned the idea, of fast track healing systems. And so I went in and did some looking around in that Akash, and I did see there were fast track healing systems, and there was one for clearing the human consciousness grid. So the premise of clearing this grid is that I often use the example of going to a gem show and picking up a stone and seeing a machete and a man hitting another man, and looking down and seeing the earth stained with blood. And I asked the vendor, was this mined in an area where there was genocide? And he said, oh yes, this was mined about 200 miles away, where in Africa there's a long history of genocide going on in that area. And I was like, okay. And I went down the table, picked up another rock, exact same stone, nothing in it. So this said to me, and it made sense to me, this great global healing party, because if we're walking on the earth with all these ancient memories of all of this war and strife and the collective creational level of large family groups, tribes, and nations, then how do we create peace on earth? And I liked the idea that we can scrub off and scrub away and heal the same way. If you're many juicy energy healers have witnessed this, that you can see the soul come in and change someone during a healing. So if we have that ability at the individual level, why can't we do it at the collective level? So I liked this idea. And then Lee Carroll, through Cryon, has also brought information that it's like a push-pull engine, and it allows new inventions and ideas and solutions to come in. And I think we all kind of feel we could really use that right now. They're saying this is the beginning of the information age, and I think we might look back and go, this might be the crazy for chemicals age, sometimes with the use of chemicals everywhere. That's just a little agricultural joke of some sort. Okay, so I also like to make a statement here, because a lot of people that I've talked with assume, based on the name of this website, The Wonder of Human Design, which is my other website, and this YouTube channel, The Wonder of Human Design, I would like people to know there's no affiliation to the software program Human Design, and my website and YouTube channel name, The Wonder of Human Design, is just an odd coincidences of titles and timing. I chose this name because when you study medicine and your spiritual nature, you become humbled in the wonder of that amazing connection we have to the Creator, the Christ, and our human to body, spirit, and soul connection. And so that's why I named it The Wonder of Human Design. Okay, so there's something else we're doing tonight, which is you'll see some other lovely ladies on the screen here. We decided to start out with an easy platform. We're starting a Q&A section in this 5 times a year free healing event, wherein we come together, united. Oh, I said that was one soul. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm on track here. And this is the inaugural launch of that question and answer period. And we have 3 lovely ladies, Tatiana, Lisa, and Alia, who are going to ask questions. I'm going to get out of the way, and we're going to see what Allaenea has for those answers. These healing events, as I said, are 5 times a year. And once the video recording is up on YouTube, after we finish tonight, you are welcome to post questions in the comment section, and these will be answered in the following Great Global Healing Party. I did turn comments on for this event, but for the first time, but I don't have time to do that level and do this level. So that's the setup. But I just put them out there for this night so I don't confuse people, but they probably won't be turned on for future live events. But the comment section will be there, and I will go back into that and look and pull out the questions before the next event. So I would like to introduce you to Tanya, Lisa, and Alia. And these are lovely healers, readers, and channelers who have a brand new YouTube channel called the Talia Group. So let's give them a hello and support them with subscribing if you feel the call to do so. And so we're going to have that question and answer. We're going to have the healing and the clearing and what gifts may come. And I have no idea beyond what I said right now. So I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to give the floor over to our host on the other side of the veil, Allaenea, and our lovely ladies who volunteered to help me with this. Thank you. I so appreciate that. Okay, I just need a little water. Hang on. You always get a little nervous with something new. Okay. Oh, good day to you, dear beings of light. This is Allaenea of Cosmic Service, a Pleiadian Mother of Sound. Peace be with you, peace be with you, and peace be with you. We're asking for patience, not only with you all, but with the audience, because she's moving into a new space for the healing this night, as well as for the channeling. Men do high mind channeling quite easily, but it takes a while for women to get to that space because their spiritual anatomy is different. All right. I'm going to let you girls just start, and I'm just going to be available to see what you have. All right. Alia, will you start?
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. The first question is, what is happening in human bodies right now energetically? Why are chronic conditions intensifying? And what are the new sensations like pressure, tingling, heat waves we are feeling actually indicating about this transition?
That's a very, very lovely question, because this one has been experiencing a lot of that. And she feels comforted by the fact that you have just said this, as well as what you said in a previous time where we got together for that meeting in the Q&A and you shared what you did. She needed to hear that. There are two things going on. There is a huge call of souls back to source. And it's natural when you get older to see more people passing away. But this is becoming a noted trend, like by people who observe a little bit more, such as you. And there is a lot of people who want to filter over into the new energy and be born again. There's also soul missions. We had said in one of the previous channels, we're not remembering when, that there's 3 stages of soul missions. Children up till 18 have a particular soul mission that they're actually doing with their souls out in the greater field when you first plug into the planet in that particular pathway. Then there's the middle age soul service. That's when you really work a lot of karma. And then there's the senior soul service, which is working at another level. So you're having a huge transition going on in the noosphere for the Christ being activated and readied to be brought into the death bardo in 2028, 29, and 30, such that people passing away, some people will have that experience right away in this lifetime. Some people will have it later. It's different based on the soul, the consciousness, the evolution, the number of lifetimes, and many other factors, the divine intelligence of the Creator, and all sorts of things. And so you have a little bit of, well, like a dichotomy. You have massive, major, and beautiful things happening here. You have disconnections from old energy pathways, and as you now are realizing, old pathways of ways of creating, ways of healing, and ways of communing even with your intuition, because that is being upgraded. And that's why so many people are saying you have to rise up to a higher octave. So the body sensations are very much felt by women and men, but a lot more by the women, because of that connection they have out to the greater source, to the field where they connect in their divine feminine nature. They're in, let's say you see the souls that came to the earth and they're plugging into Gaia and divine intelligence and the Christ force. And then women go right out to that soul group, and there's a soul cell there where the near perfected souls are, and it goes right to divine intelligence, such is why women can birth a soul into existence. And there's a difference between when a man takes an embryo that's been fertilized and puts it in his womb versus when a woman does it. And we mean no disrespect to any man that feels the desire to do that. But we're just saying it is different, and we're going to leave it at that. So this dichotomy of what you're going through has many different aspects, many different reactions, and many different decisions of the soul for various people. But what you're also going to see is that the souls that are going to be born are going to be like an even, we can call it the third wave of indigo children. They're going to come in and be even more smart, seeming connected, seem to have answers and solutions, because they're going to be born in the new energy of the great shift. So that's going to have an effect too in the regard of that. Regarding the bodily sensations, if you note when they happen, you will learn something, because you have your 24-hour circadian rhythm, and you have your planetary 24-hour circadian cycle, but you have the great galactic cycle of your solar system. And so you are seeing, and this one recently came to the aha, that in order for portals to open, galactic portals to open, that the solar system you're in actually twists and opens. It's the same way the DNA in your central column twists. And the DNA in your central column twists around a 24-hour day. And at the solstices, it's straight. And at the equinoxes, it crosses. So you have your daily twisting at a small level. You have your annual twisting at another level. And you have your galactic twisting at another level. So if you start to note when you have these bodily heats and symptoms, you will actually start to learn the galactic cycle overlaying the 24-hour circadian cycle. And that is very revealing and very revealing. We don't mean to be a salesperson, but that teaching is actually in the active meditation course. Now have complete patience with her. That was her first thing doing with us. She was so nervous that she asked us to teach it. She was like, well, if these are your teachings and you brought in this oneness program that I took over there, she spent 5 years in a healing school, and I found all this stuff in Akash, and I kept having to have my Akashic record go back farther and farther, and she finally pulled that out of Lemuria. Oh my gosh, is that stuff true? And so you have that information in there, but we did a lot of the teaching. And she was very nervous. And sometimes she looks a little bit like a wreck because she was still healing through her Akash. So concentrate not on the presenter, but on the information. And we would like to hold a small post-YouTube seminar after this great global healing party for anyone who would like to sign up. And this time, Tatiana, it will be a one-day course, because we put a shout out after the last great global healing party, and that turned into a 3-day thing. And it was, from our end, known that, but this one didn't know, and there was a lot going on. But anyway, so we would like to do a one-day course and teach the great cycle. And if you know that great cycle, and then you start to see, you might find there's certain times of the day you have intuition stronger, certain times of the day that heat comes in, and we're going to sort of explain it in a more clear way. Now, why didn't we do that with her before when she was learning this? One human has to have the aha in order for us to come in. We can't give you information until somebody knows it. And that's the beauty of the system. And she's been working very hard. And there's a reason why she did not begin clearing her akash till she was already in the clairvoyant mode from earlier training, because it allowed her to see and us to upgrade her seeing into different aspects to show her some of the anatomy in the outer torus, the spiritual anatomy in the outer torus, if we may be so bold. And if you're attracted to this event and you're here, well, then this woo-woo stuff is okay with you. So we're kind of coming out of the closet a little bit. So do you feel that you got your answer? Okay, very good. And Lisa, I believe you have 3 questions, so Tatiana, we're going to put you in the middle a little bit and go around.
Okay. So my first question is kind of a compound question. So would you like me to read the first part and pause, or all together?
We can handle it, dear one. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So how does acceptance and surrender to what is play a role in healing? And if a person is experiencing dis-ease, illness, or weakness in the body, and is choosing and intending a change that includes healing or curing the experience, how does the person know if they are in alignment with divine will versus just personal will?
Very, very good question. This one's been asking the same thing at a different level. How do I really know this is my soul's will? How do I really know this is divine intelligence's will? I have taken a big step into the void here in trust, and every time we do something, I freak out and I feel doubt, and I just don't know what's going on. And it's the same in the healing journey. The spiritual journey is like a healing journey, and a healing journey is like a spiritual journey. So the surrender part of your question, how to know when to surrender and how to know when to fight is basically the question, if you think about it. How do I know when I'm just to surrender and let this healing happen, no matter which direction it takes me, even if it's out of life or an incarnation? Or how do I know my soul wants me to fight, or I'm to fight, or how do I know? The best way to know is still go on your healing journey, because every illness takes you through levels of consciousness in that journey. And if we were to give that segue of the soul uses the human for different types of work in 3 ways, as a child, as an adult, and at the end of life, any healing journey, believe it or not, goes through all 3 of those, even for a child who ends up with a medical illness such as cancer. They still have a birth bardo and a death bardo in their spiritual anatomy in this incarnation. And so the soul is totally aware, and the soul is working various levels, and sometimes what might look like a tragedy here is actually not a tragedy at all. And sometimes what looks like a healing miracle here is actually a passing away of something on the other side of the veil. So if you think of the great breath of the divine as like a push-pull engine itself, and is maybe an in-breath when you're having an incarnation, and an out-breath is you're on the other side of the veil, and do you not do this every night when you sleep? Somehow you're gone, and then you awaken. How is that? How does that work? Some people have referred to sleep as the mini death. It's because your soul is in a constant in-breath and out-breath with 3 things: Gaia, the child, Christ, in the middle part of your life when you're trying to really work that karma, and all your biggest problems come through that time. You got children getting older, you got your work and your emotions, you got your parents are aging, it's just, as someone described this one, John Van Auckland of the ARE Institute down in Virginia Beach at a lecture said, it's like you're born and then all of a sudden you're going down and it's getting really deep, but then you start coming up again at latter life. It goes, whoa, that was really, really intense. And that's why the Christ force is there, and that's the Christ service life. And at the end of life, for seniors, or even for a child or a person younger or a person in middle age, they enter into the divine intelligence aspect, which is the senior part of service. So either way, we're giving you a broad picture, and then we're going to answer more specifically, if you don't mind. Either way, you are in the exact flow. And it's only the level that comes up through the karma and the fear and the ancestral and the ending of consciousness. And we've talked about the news bubble. We call it the news bubble. It's where all the man-made stuff is that isn't in the creational levels. It's where guilt and shame go. It's where all the drama, it's where all the fear, because that is not of the source. If your creator source is of love, and if that love is what you were born from, then you wouldn't have those things. So those are man-made creations for certain periods of time. And as we've told this one, at the Great Shift, the evolution goes to a benevolent spirit body out of a pain body. And you also form a new news bubble. It's empty. And the only thing that'll go into that one is the benevolent creations of humanity going forward. How beautiful. So the most of what the fear is with illness or anything is, and this one's having a thought, we're just going to let her finish that, and we're going to actually bring that up. Okay, so whatever the fear is in the illness or approaching the end of life, it comes out of that news bubble where you still have strings attached. And we've used the example of the world leaders as a vacillation of that space that's going on between these new and old hookups that come in place over evolution over five lifetimes, 5 generations, 500 years. In 500 years, everyone's, if we may say, interdimensional DNA within it will have the paradigm shift for them to find their way to this benevolence. And the creator creates a system where there's always advanced people, new people, people who are working the path. There's always a mixture of people on the earth to carry different levels of vibrations. And at the Great Shift, there's a tremendous amount of highly evolved spiritual people that come into physical incarnation that are here to support, give information. And we're not saying this one. She's like, well, it's not me. Don't make them think that. She's in the background there. And so, I just let her get out of the way. Okay, so we have these perspectives and these ideas and these things. So back to your question, how does an individual know? So I've said from the bigger perspective, you don't have to worry about anything. And that's what this one goes. Well, if I'm in service to the creative source and I've surrendered to it, then I just need to do that. And that's a very hard thing to do. And it's the same thing with illness. But how do you know when you're meant to fight? How do you know when it is the right thing? So we gave you a macrocosm that says you don't have to worry about it. The creative source and your enmeshment in this earthly system and your souls and your higher selves and all are within a breath of in-breath and out-breath. But at the personal level, it's different. It's different. It's different. You're in the sleep of forgetfulness. An incarnation is like a sleep of forgetfulness. And you get that memory back when you pass back into spirit and unite with your soul again. And so while you're in that sleep of forgetfulness, how do you know? It's kind of in every great book of spirituality that's ever been written. Every founder of every great thought pattern who brought in, that became an ism or a religion, basically said it. It's very simple. You simply tune to the Creator, you tune in your heart, and you ask. And you ask and you ask. And you ask and you ask until you get your answer. Or you find your way. Now, a journey of healing is usually people who go, okay. Some people mesh into the medical system and go on that journey. Some people actually go outside the box, and we're not saying anything about medicine or how you do it. We're just giving descriptive metaphors for understanding. Some people kind of go, I'm going to go check out this. I'm going to go look at this. I'm going to go look at that. And this one read a study of a woman who had over 125 tumors in her body from various cancers. And she cleared them all and healed them all. And she needed that experience. So it depends what you're asking for, what your consciousness is, what your soul purpose is. It's a very big question to answer in a little human being. So how do you know? You hope that you get that still small voice. For you, in your heart, there's 3 heart pathways. One is the soul to the Supreme Being. One is the Supreme Being to the soul. Those are called people often term those the infinity heart and the immaculate heart. But there is a pathway that is Supreme Being pathway. And that is exactly directly from your heart, directly out to the greater field where you plug in as near perfected souls. And you just keep asking that creative source, however it may come. And one of the problems with humans is they get an idea in their mind and how they want it to come. That's part of the surrender, to let go of the idea of how you expect it to come, because it might come in the strangest little ways. This one heard a story of a woman who was going through a divorce, and she didn't know whether to leave. Well, she was having trouble, and she didn't know whether to separate and get a divorce. And she was walking down a city street, and this is not original to her. She heard this at another seminar or something. And all of a sudden, a woman was walking down the street with a child, and the child pulled away from the mother and went over to this woman and looked her deep in the eyes and said, "Leave him." And the child turned around and went back to the mother. And because the mother had turned around, he sees the boy walk over, she's watching, and then he came back to the mother and put his hand out, and they walked on. And the woman was like, "Well, I guess I got my answer." So you never know. You never know. But the biggest thing is don't lose heart, and don't lose that belief that you are connected and divine. And know that even though it seems so sad to leave an incarnation, it will get easier through evolution. I'm going to give an example. This one was told long ago that by a teacher that she once witnessed a cat get crushed by a garage door. And she saw the cat's spirit pop right out of that body and just go on like nothing had happened. In your future evolution, passing away will be like that. It'll be so simple and elegant. It'll be like going to sleep. Oh, okay, I'm done. And you'll be back with soul. The connections will become so strong through evolution as you evolve. And you, as we like to say, you got there much faster than we did, a lot faster. And you are surpassing all expectations, let's put it that way, with the work you all are doing down here. So we can give you those thoughts as comfort, and we can give you those directives to try to help you. But for each person, it is a little different. So it's a very hard question to give an exact answer to. And humans kind of want, well, if I do A, B, and C, it'll happen that way. And this is often said by others. But what we say is, don't give up. Somewhere that answer will come. You'll know. You'll know. And you'll know. Okay. Let's do another one from Allaenea, and then we'll go to Tatiana.
My second question on the elemental realm. Why are the elementals becoming more visible and accessible to humans now? And what is opening to allow that perception? And what do they want us to know that whale is things?
I'm sorry, was that the whale sightings?
Yeah, whale is things. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I just want to make sure you're not talking about the whale breachings onto the land.
Mhm.
Oh.
It's whale. It's a VEIL.
VEI. Oh, veil lifting. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Sorry. We wanted to be sure because this one immediately went to whales. Okay. She's in the background saying, "Oh, ladies might want to watch the movie Disclosure. It's very fun," from Steven Spielberg. Okay, and that's her thing. Okay, so the veil is thinning, and the elementals are more visible to people who have certain setups in their clairvoyance, and there's something beautiful going on. and we're going to describe it. In your spirit body, the way it is now, there is a pathway for the elemental diva kingdom to communicate with you, and it's just to the left of your navel. It's a point related to Gaia. On the right side, sort of across from your navel, there's a point there for animal communication. So it is true. People say that they can communicate with plants and animals and elementals and divas. It's true. And then this one has on her website, she started studying what they think is Leonardo da Vinci's drawing, and she did a deep dive into it because she just saw all the symbolism in it. In that picture, and we're forgetting the name right now, the Salvador Mundi. There is, and it was bought by someone in the Middle East, a record sale. And in that picture, there's an amber dot right here. And that is the human communication, spirit communication point. And that's how people are able to read deceased relatives and hear all of that, and different levels of ancestral. There's some people that are all ancestral, and so they work a lot out of this point. Well, it can happen to an individual in their lifetime in which they are moving up out of the lower three chakras. That's an easy way to say it, and that information is talked about by Edgar Cayce and Rudolf Steiner and various other people. They get an upgrade of those points. But at the great shift, because of moving over to a benevolent spirit body system, so that, if we may be so bold as to say, Christ is the new Lord of Karma, people will pass away, they'll see a great golden being, they'll have their life review, but unlike feeling all pain and then having to be reborn with that pain, their life review will be seeing, okay, I could have done better, yep, that's not so good, and they'll feel heart pain because the lower karmic akasha is being dropped away, or already has been, and they will have this flood of the golden akashas that will come over them, and they will be like, oh my gosh, I know what the right answer is. I know what I need to do to heal that and fix that in my next incarnation. Huge switch. So the animal point and the divic point, the elemental diva and the animal point and the human point are all being moved up. And the new ones are a diva elemental and the animal, and the human point is now sort of up in the pineal creation system in the throat chakra. And there are some people that have those connections that were made in previous incarnations, and they're really having a fun time with this becoming active as these shifts are happening, because you still have, if we may be so bold, as to say the angel, archangel, and Arachai, archangels who work national spirits, the spirit of nations, are very, very busy doing a lot of work. And you can think of us as just sort of like go-betweens, doing some levels to help. Okay. As well as we moved off the old Lemurian paradigm onto the Christ paradigm, because that's what we do at the Great Shift, if we may be so bold as to say that. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why the animals are communicating so much. And the other reason, besides the points going up, is that there is, through the divine intelligence, almost like a warm fuzzy going on, so that people, even if they're not getting it from the human level, they might get it through their dog. They might be getting that comfort through the bird that landed on their patio. They might be getting it from the human at a social event who just says that one right thing they need to hear. And so there's a lot more of that going on. And that's purposeful during the Great Shift. And we had started to give a metaphor based on what Lisa's question was about the news ball, or maybe it was you, news ball. Even look at the world leaders, they're all trying to go forward, and they do have the best intentions. But then they fall back into this old way of trying to get that to happen. Well, let's force them to have nice trade and get rid of that bomb by creating a little skirmish. and everyone's freaking out. And so it's step forward, step back, step forward, step back. So there is this shifting going on. Some days you feel really connected and some days you don't. And that's not anybody's personal problem. That's all of this incredible mechanism through all levels of creation being shifted over for this great shift. I think that was satisfactory? Okay. All right, Tatiana.
My question is, Cryon of Magnetic Service told us that the human body is designed to live about 950 years, but there is an internal clock in place that tells the human body to start aging around the age of 50. It was designed this way so people have a lot of incarnations and learn many lessons. How can we change this programming so we can live longer?
Oh, that's a lovely question, too. All right, so there's an interesting thing about incarnation, and we're going to quote what this one knows that she's read through Rudolf Steiner. Your body, you're born, and you know it. You look at children, you look at young people, the vitality. That is the etheric force that makes up the body. It's that blue sheath people see just over the skin, and it's also thinking and consciousness, but it also is form and structure. And it's very strong when you are born, and then it gets weaker. But what changes is your astral spirit body, which is all of your information, as people say. It's got all of your Akashic records, it's got all of your higher self records. On the outer torus, it's got all of your galactic records. That starts to get stronger, starting around, believe it or not, 35. So the paradigm is actually, it depends on how you're describing the paradigm, how it's answered. So the viewpoint that Cryon was coming from was biology, the body cellular aging. But we're giving the perspective of the spirit, so it's different. So if you look at Rudolf Steiner's perspective, he said in the farther back in time, the peak of the physical body was at like a much later age. And he said it is waning. And he said it went from 50 years old was the peak of the spiritual etheric body, vitality. And then he said now, in the time you're in, it's about 35 years old. And he said it's going to continue to decrease, that vital feeling of it. And it's true. If you think back or you're aware when you go through certain ages, you sort of have a feeling at 35, like, I feel fantastic, and this feels like a real peak. And she recently had the woman that cuts her hair a few years ago say that, about how great she felt when she was 35. So you have that going on. Now at the other end, you have the dichotomy that the lifespan, the maximum lifespan, if you look at anyone that's on Earth, has been no more than 120. I think someone got to 119. So you're having a strange dichotomy. You're having the vital force of the life force and the body level is decreasing to be more at its peak at a younger age in a human, but you have the lifespan increasing because you're moving from a 120-year lifespan to a 150-year lifespan. And what it is, it's like a pull. So you might be moving into that, and then it starts to pull people longer living eventually beyond 120, beyond. So it's like spirit and a lag time of the physical, if you can think of it that way. So, might have a sneeze there. So you have that going on. So it depends how you're talking about the body. Hang on, sneeze, yep. Pollen, she was outside for a walk. Okay, so the perspective of the question you asked was almost like a dual question. So let us go to the part of why is the peak of the human body physically declining, but the biological aging begins around 50. What is going on? Because the peak of the body vitality of the etheric is starting to become enmeshed at the spirit level with the spirit body. And the astral that gets so strong at the end of life is going into another dimension that is opening up, where that benevolent stuff that we talked about is going to come in and come through. As we've said in our channelings, this one, there is a new dimension. It has come in, and it's a sliver between 12 and 12:30, approximately time zones, la, 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 la. We're talking the time frame of her Eastern Standard Time in the United States on the East Coast. So it's different for wherever you are. And your time changes because they set the clocks back and forth. But it can be felt if you start to tune into it. And it's a little benevolent band that feels kind of good. But there's a lot of work going on. There's stuff going on this side of it, there's stuff this side of it. And that time of the day actually represents a solstice. 12 midnight, 12 noon represents solstices in your 24-hour circadian rhythm, and the twilight and the dawn time represent ancestral. So if we give you that perspective, and we said this etheric is now going to wind up with the soul spirit, and that a spirit is going forward in evolution, then it's almost like something is going to change in this Mobius flip of you from spirit into body. Increase in years, and the biology has to increase if you're going to live longer. The body and the biology and the healing ability have to increase to live longer. So you have biology that will start to function a little better, while you have the peak of life will get shorter. It's very confusing, isn't it? But it kind of makes sense, but it's very hard to explain. And then you have the spirit in people is going to get stronger. So we're going to give you a far future vision picture, because we just gave you approximately maybe a 200-year epoch. What does all that do over 200 years? Did we say 200 or 2,000? We meant to say 2,000. We meant to say 2,000. In about 2,000 years, you are in a period where you have a type of a mini renaissance. And there's going to be a lot of upgrades to the etheric template of the human body. And there's going to be, Cryan mentioned, this one heard, the liver will get larger. And she's like, ooh, is that going to look weird? We're going to have a bump sticking out. So what we have said before is that there's people call it the divine blueprint. There is a template for creating on a planet. But how the humans create on that planet is individual. How they create the form of the body becomes unique and individual. What they choose to bring in and enhance is partly part of the creator, but it's also part of people. And there's many of you that are very happy that your planet looks like it'll evolve. Will there still be people who will have spiritual connection and work those spiritual gifts and tools? Because if you have intuition, why do I need AI? So you have that group. And then you also have people that are going to go to tech. And it's the potential for a very, very beautiful paradigm. But right now, I think a lot of people realize consciousness isn't quite there to get to that paradigm. So we would like to take you approximately about, we've told this one we can see approximately 300 years into the future, but from our time capsule perspective of what we evolved to, we can extrapolate. So we're doing a little combination of potentials of what we went through and guesstimate work of where you would be in approximately another 200,000 years. You would be in a place where some people might be able to meditate and actually look like they dissolve because they're going up to that spirit body and doing some work up there. And those would be those very rare advanced people, like Sai Baba's kind of a little one. He could manifest out of the air. That's the most public one that's known. They often don't let themselves be identified. They're here for particular reasons. But they have been here on the earth, very advanced people. Matter of fact, this one knows of one. And she's done some work with him. And he's here for a short period of time, just for the Great Shift, and then he's going back to his home planet. Okay, so it's a very interesting planet that you're on. So you'll have that in about 200,000 years. You'll have a lot more of people, and this one wants to shut her eyes so she doesn't influence, so just forgive her. So there'll be a lot more people who will have an understanding and experiences with their spiritual nature. There will be a lot more calmness on the earth as far as nations learning to get along. You will be in space travel and going to other places, and you will be figuring out how to sustain your planet and how to have things that will work that won't be like they are now. You won't have to dig into the earth and take out things to make things. You will be able to do it in a different way. And you'll have pretty advanced souls on the planet, because there's always a core group that grows and grows larger and larger as the planet and the consciousness on the planet evolve. So that's a little bit of a forward picture that we can give without interfering with human will or saying too much. And who knows, you might do it differently than we did. But those were marker points that we had from our process. And you have been doing it faster than we have. And because of, as a lot of people say, the influx of free will seems to be making a tremendous difference. Okay. So that was a good question, and we sort of went off on tangents with that, Tatiana. And we hope there was an answer in there in a type of way that makes a little sense. Okay. So as the spirit evolves, the physical evolves, is the short way of saying it. It happens first up there, and then it manifests down to the physical. In a lag time, spirit's doing it. Oh, the physical's catching up, Okay. All right, I think we're up to Lisa.
Yeah. So, what is the role of healers in a person's healing journey? With my understanding of you can't heal another. So if you can't heal another as a healer, then what is your role?
Good question. It's a very good question. This one was even actually with some people at a table, and they asked her what she does, and she said, for the easiest way to say it, she was a healer and a naturopathic doctor. And they went crazy over the word healer and gave her a little lecture about how she doesn't do anything. And she was like, okay, okay. And she knows that. And so a healer creates space. They create a connection and a calmness that that person can't quite get at in the moment they're in. They help them with information. And for those that actually do healing, they are a conduit for the soul to help that person. Now, this one was taught that unless the healer has healed the complex in themselves, they cannot heal another person. And that is actually true. They can help balance their energy field. They can help reduce the stress. They can get the person into a state of astral etheric balance through hands-on healing. Healing forces come through the hand. As this one was taught, imagine your crown is at gold and your hands are a blessing, because those hands are connected to the heart field. So healers have a great purpose on the earth, and it is a very humble profession, and it is a needed and a service work profession. And believe it or not, healers increase at certain times of the planetary evolution, such as the Great Shift. So many women feel the call to healing, or to do healing, or be healers. It's because of various reasons. 1, they might need healing. 2, they feel the soul call. And 3, they just feel that there's something going on that they need to be a part of. And this is part of the Great Shift. And it is a truth, no disrespect to any of the sexes, but women are designed to be the healers. And that is the way of it, because of that connection out to the soul groups in the greater field. And so A healer has many aspects and many things that they do on various levels. Now, the healers that bring in or bring in healing modalities that might work with guide groups or soul groups or whatnot, that's a slightly different level. And sometimes those types of guides can do healing in the spirit body. So there's that level. And those types of guides only can come through the divine intelligence of the creator source, as this one liked to call it, from the pool of souls who do Supreme Being's will and healing. And she tries to set that intention because she's very aware of beings on the other side of the veil, and it gets a little trippy, and she's kind of scared a lot of times. And so she calls in a lot of intentions to make sure it's all okay. And that's normal during the Great Shift. There's other periods of times where you don't have that. And so for any of you healers that are out there that are feeling that, where you feel frightened and you're doing your healing at times, and is that the client or the patient, know that it's the Great Shift, and it's what's going on at another level. So the healers serve a great purpose, and they come at various times and more. There are certain planetary healers where they are designed that they have most all of their incarnations in the healing arts. This one is one. 3/4 of her Akash is all in healing. And many of you here have very strong Akashas in healing. And many of you in the audience have very strong Akashas in healing. And we would like to take a moment, if you don't mind, and give 2 personal messages to people that are in the audience right now listening live. She starts out with small groups, and then more people tune in. Check it out. But there's 2 healers that are listening to this. And both of you are going through a big period of doubt. You both are doing healing modalities that you were trained in, and you're some of the ones that feel they're not working right now, or you can't feel the flow. You're not doing anything wrong. You just need an adjustment that'll bring you into the new energy so that you may get your connection back. And we're just going to leave it at that. And you both of you have the same message. So don't give up. You're thinking about walking away. And we're going to tell you that there's 2 things that are going to happen if you don't give up, that in about 5 years you will realize, both of you, you don't know each other, this just happens to be a dual message. In 5 years, if you don't give up, you will have the ahas on why it was good you did not give up, if we may say it that way. All right. Thank you for that side message. All right, Lisa, you feel you got a good answer? Any more? Okay. Let's see. I'm losing track. Maybe you've done 2. You've done 2, and you each have 1 more. I forget. Yeah. Okay. Tatiana, I want to ask your next question, and then we'll do Alia.
Yes. Yeah. My next question is: I meet many people who are on the spiritual path. They are old souls, and they came at this time to help during the Great Shift. But many of them have the same pattern. Many of them have a fear to be seen. They don't feel that they are worthy, that they are good enough to be paid for their service. So there's a dichotomy here. They want to serve and help people, but they're afraid to market themselves. Any advice on how to help them?
Yes. And we're going to do a shout out because there's someone listening here who's in marketing, and no one has done this yet. People have formed teaching workshops, and they have formed webinar workshops where they're bringing healers together and marketing them in one website. But no one has done this for healers. There needs to be a marketing person that steps up and takes on a bunch of healers and promotes them, because there's a dichotomy of serving at a soul level and trying to operate in the material world. And everything that you just spoke of with these women, this one has gone through. Matter of fact, she made us do all the beginning work, and she was a nervous wreck, and she wants to take those early things down off the web, and we are going to give her and say, yep, just she found out if you take them down, it messes up YouTube's algorithm. So you just put them as unpublished. And she wants some of that early work down because she was working through the Akash and the Death Bardo, and she was a mess, and she knows it. And she knows some people are able to see auras and stuff, and they're just going to look at that and go, well, this person's just horrible. And so she wants that stuff out because now she's got it together, and she's where she should be. And we're just going to say it that way. So the women have two things going on, most of them. One is past life blocks of where they were punished with that, and that has been pointed out by many channelers. But the other is that it's very hard to do both, to work at a whole soul level and then to be down at this level. This one got training to do it very quickly from doing hands-on healing and being a naturopath, and she'd have to switch roles very quickly. And that helped her a little bit, but it's stressful. And healers also need to know how to move their clients out of their field and clean themselves after healing. And a lot of training is out there about that. So, and this one, we're just going to use her as an example, even though she doesn't like it sometimes, is she had read that many people who get into the spiritual path end up with less money at the end of life and somewhat broke. And she's like, well, that's not a nice picture. That's exactly the dichotomy. It's very hard to stay in the mundane world for some of the healers with the call to the soul or the spirit or the healing, or even if it's their path that they need the healing and they're doing it through a healing art. Because you have many levels of what goes on in all of these healing arts. Some people engage in them because they're like, I need healing, I'm in pain. And that's how this one started. Where's the guidebook for the newly evolved? You meditate, and eventually the light of the soul, as Edgar Cayce says, brings up that energy up in the soul into those lower three chakras, and it activates the pain body, and you go on the journey to find out, how do I get rid of that? And for 10 years, she kept looking at a school. She'd go to it, and it had just closed down. And that was purposeful. Until she found herself to a particular group, and she got some tools and started moving that Akash. And we recently said there's only 3 healing paradigms on the earth right now that can help people actually clear through their karmic Akash. And that's purposeful too. So the advice we would give is that no healer, no marketing person has thought to do that and help people of the healing arts with this level. Now, this one also saw, get out of the way, she's starting to think a little bit. This one also saw that there are some people that have done very well promoting themselves very quickly and getting a following on YouTube in the healing arts. And she's like, how are they doing that? And she started to do the research. They all have backgrounds in marketing. And they were like, well, I can do that. She recently had someone say to her, well, I can do that. I've been watching people. I think I could do that. I've been watching how they do. They get up there, they say this stuff, because the energy's juicy. Everyone's feeling the call. And they want to do that. Some people just want to be in front of people and be the person who tells everybody everything. This one did not want to be that. She did not want to do that. And it's not a judgment thing. This is not a judgment thing. But so what we're saying is, if needs to be a marketing person who helps the healers and gets them out there, and it will be a very, very good thing to do, and it will be very profitable for all, because that's important. This one's been working for a long time in what she's been doing without a payback. But she believes so strongly in what she's doing, she says, well, if it's meant to be, it'll come. And so there we are. So that's the best answer we can give for that. And regarding the women that you have, that you're talking about, they should keep going. Don't give up. They have something to offer. So maybe they need to start in a group, and just sort of start talking. And it took this one a long time to be able to talk herself in front of the camera, free-flowing. It's a practice, and it's a tool, and you get better at it. Even if you just start on Zoom and just start practicing talking in front of the mirror. It's very trippy to look at yourself and talk to yourself. As this one would tell you right now, don't look in your eyes and don't look in the audience eyes. It's like something happens and you forget what you're saying. That's a human piece of advice. So we would say to those girls, just start practicing. Do it. Get out there. Okay. I believe are we on the final question? I think so, yeah. Alia.
I wrote down a question, but my team told me to ask her that because I was thinking about it. I heard from you about golden Akash, and I can't stop thinking about. Can you take us on tour there and give us a little bit of insight? What is there? How it looks and feels?
Yes, we would love to do that because this one has studied and studied, and sometimes the notes and la 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 la. She actually has 5 encyclopedias, about 300 pages each, of everything she's pulled out of the Akash, because she's just a spiritual junkie. And she needed it for the anatomy and the understanding and validation. Okay, so we'd like to describe the golden Akashas and where they are. There's the golden Akash on the well, let's give a paradigm for people who don't understand what we're talking about. We have described, from our perspective, 3 grids, if you want to look at it that way. Think of them as interdimensional fields of consciousness is another way to think of them. Think of them as fields of quantum entanglement where your soul is enmeshed across beyond time and space where there is no time. So it's everywhere, everything all at once. So there are 3 of these grids that we predominantly talk about. The human consciousness grid, which is recording that large family groups, tribes, and nations, and then down in the higher self level, it's recording individual lifetimes. Then you have what we call the soul creational grid. People often call it the interim Christ grid. And think of that like a change grid. Just as you have a main spirit body that evolves, that's the one that'll take on physical differences, but you have an interim spirit body where all the healing and the energy and a lot of things change through. So this is like an interim change grid. It allows change and evolution. And then you have what people call the Christ grid, or the soul mastering grid, as we call it. You have golden Akashas on all 3 of those grids. You have ancestral golden Akash, and you have high ancestral golden Akash. What's the difference? Ancestral golden Akash is all of what, and we're talking noosphere level, the collective, is all of the creations of beauty and light that your ancestors ever did. All the good deeds at the group level. And that's what we use in the Great Global Healing Party, or anyone that gets together and begins doing healing parties or whatever in this great shift, draws gold from that. If it's of that type of a healing. And then the higher level is spiritual wisdom. And that, and we're gonna, let's get out of the way, we're gonna do it our way. She's like, well, you can do that, get out of the way. She gets excited because she's wanted to hear this for a long time. Sorry. So there's 3 new connections that have been made. And this is unity consciousness as another picture. Before, each grid had certain connections of how they could communicate. But the great shift and the evolution into unity conscious means that at the higher level, the Christ or soul mastery grid is now connected to the greater field in a bigger way. It is now connected into the interim Christ grid or soul creational grid, and it is connected into the human consciousness grid. The human consciousness grid is now connected in a bigger way to the field, and there's a new connection into the interim Christ grid. Everything is connected to the field now, where you are near perfected souls out in the planet. And what's another way of looking at these 3 grids? Human consciousness grid Gaia, interim grid Christ, healing and evolution, and even though the master grid you would think would be that, divine intelligence. So, micro, macro, and you have these energies within your spirit body. Okay, so the golden Akashas on the human consciousness grid have those levels. The higher spiritual wisdom that was learned by all your ancestors, and the higher deeds and creations they had for the greater good of all. And they built that gold up. And you do that in your lifetime. Anything that was done in alignment with benevolence and grace is your gold, and everyone has that. And it's collected by the soul at the end of the life and taken up. And that's suddenly when the senior is very cranky. And then the soul comes back down again to get that gold, and all of a sudden the senior can be very loving. Some people actually see this transition with their people heading toward God's door at the end of life. And now you understand what it is, and don't worry about it. It's a system. Okay, so the interim Christ grid, or the soul creational grid, has a golden Akash of a different type of creational level of ancestors. It's got our time capsules in it to release inventions and information. And it's also got a new level that's being connected to the benevolent recording Akash, that empty new ball that'll only have the good creations that people create as you evolve through millions and millions and millions and millions of years of your future. And so that's now got those three things in it. The benevolent ball. Where's the other old news ball? It's over on the human consciousness grid. And it'll always be there. It's a choice, free will choice. What are you going to tune to? Okay. But it just won't be filled anymore as much. It'll start to fade over the millions of years of evolution. Because some of the stuff we're talking about in the newer sphere is a long time, and then longer here and longer here. And some of the stuff is happening right now, and we try to clarify. Okay, what's on the Christ grid, or the soul mastery grid? That is every adept who came in and worked with divine intelligence, and most often the Christ, through that grid, in a particular way that they came in their evolutionary setup. And we're going to take it aside and tell you something. We showed this one. At the end of your life, they call it the 3-day bardo you go through. It's 3 days from the human perspective. It's 4 seconds from ours. And in the second day, we actually give the human setups for their next lifetime. And Rudolf Steiner talks a little bit about this. Part of our soul goes and works with higher creational beings. Part of the soul goes forward and is working in the astral level, preparing for its next lifetime. And in part of that process, higher creational beings and the divine intelligence sometimes bring in things to people to prepare them for that next incarnation, and then that ends at the end of that life. So it's a very, very fluid and changing kind of a reality, even though this seems so solid and real, and I am born and I go along my life and then I pass away. It's actually, from our perspective, a much more fluid and creating at every moment and benevolent paradigm. So on that Christ grid is not only, it's kind of like the level of communication that they had between that archangel, and maybe we're talking about the Jesus Christ, who brought in that Christ healing force into the etheric of the earth 2,000 years ago. Or maybe it's another adept, and it actually has the level of their communication on how they receive that. And that's a different level of information that eventually you all evolve into to be able to have that knowing in. That's part of evolution. So see, now you're thinking of these grids as actually serving an evolutionary purpose. It's looking a little different now than just I have karma and it's just this thing. So we're painting a fluid picture here. The other thing that's on that soul mastery grid or Christ grid is that connection that's been made out to the greater field is enhancing intuition, knowing, and higher aspects of soul, divine intelligence, and supreme being. And there's setups going on that right now, and that's why that channel's being widened. Also in there is an upgrade for men and women into their higher self in that regard. And the other thing that is going on is there is an upgrade going on, particularly for women. Now, it's not a sexist thing, so no disrespect, but the Great Shift does have a lot more to do with the woman's spiritual anatomy than the man's, because of the divine feminine connection through women, through the heart field, that women collectively carry in the noosphere. And that women are designed that only they can do certain things, like heal the heart field of the human consciousness grid, these other levels because of those connections. So women are having upgrades at the Great Shift in a particular way for their evolution going forward for the next millions and millions and millions of years until you get evolved. And you're shooting through wormholes in space and spirit light bodies, or maybe you've got craft and people are going to do that, and some people are going to do that way. I think what we think is you're going to do both. There's going to be people who are going to go that way, and there's going to be people who are going to do it in a spaceship and travel around. Because there's actually both in the spiritual paradigm in the galactic level. And that's all we're going to say about that. Okay, so is that a good answer? Do you feel you're comfortable with that? Okay. So this has been a little longer than we thought. And the lag time, we weren't quite aware of that. We didn't look that deeply. And we hadn't warned her about that one. We said it would be smooth, but it is, and we're here now. So we're going to get out of the way, and we're going to do the healing. So what's going on tonight? Well, up at the soul cell level, at the noosphere, we are healing the soul will versus the human will at the collective. In that soul cell, you all heal out in the greater field. And this is part of this particular stage of the Great Global Healing Party. So it's very, very far out. It's going to feel like, to some people, like they are just drifting out in space. For those of you out in the audience who are adepts and have worked with your spiritual nature and gone into some high levels of meditation, you might have those feelings. For her, she is going to be way up there. So we've got it arranged that either I'm going to come in and just turn this off. When a being comes into the net to channel, they can use the arms. And that's all she is. That is all based on our agreement that she comes into, we come into her. That's her comfort level, and it's appropriate. You have your life force. You don't want that to be taken over. There's a system to the channeling, believe it or not. Okay, so of this type. So we're going to get out of the way, and we're going to do the sound. Now, there's two other things that are going to happen. There is a portal in the June solstice and in the Lion's Gate, and this is a loop portal. And it has to do with soul merges also at higher levels in ancient epochs. So there will be a clearing of soul merges of the ancient Lemurian level and the Egyptian Golden Renaissance of anyone at the soul level who still has those old connections of soul merges from people they knew in the past, because they no longer serve in the new benevolent paradigm. So this is kind of like a mini upgrade of the galactic June's portal and the galactic Lionsgate portal. And then the Lionsgate Great Global Healing Party will move on. So this is for the soul level for people who have those merges with other people when they did juicy healing work. Now let's cover that real quick. What are merges all about? They are a soul divine intelligence arrangement, and they are done for three main reasons: to change the grids, to bring in new healing paradigms, and to bring in new consciousness concepts. And they are done a lot more than you would ever imagine. And sometimes the human doesn't even know it, but that soul arrangement was done in that second day of the death bardo, or last of life incarnation bardo, and they take on a soul merge there, and they don't even know it. But we're talking more of the collective soul merges of higher work in the portals. And whoever has those will be cleaned up, and their soul will make the decision whether they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And we're leaving it vague. Okay, so there's that. And the third thing is there's a gift in this. Now, we started gifts, we believe it was the solstice last year. If there's someone at the live event who has a particular ability, and if the divine intelligence of the creative source says do it, they do it. We do it. And there is someone here today at this live event who has a particular gift, and we're going to share it with everyone. And that gift is the ability to clairvoyantly hear these higher level portals that are being engaged for earth elemental, animal, and human that are being lifted up that we described earlier in this long talk of the questions. So that will be given to everyone at the live event. And we're so sorry if you're listening to this after. That is the nature of spirit. Some things can only be done live, and some gifts are like the soup kitchen concept that she mentioned, where you can go and listen to them, and your soul will say, oh, yeah, she needs that, and your soul will, just listening to the sound healing, you don't have to listen to the talking, just listen to the sound healing, and your soul will come in and do that work for you. And know that it is your souls that are pretty much doing this work as a collective. We just are kind of conduits of information between what's happening out there and what's happening at your level. But we actually do not do the work, and this one has always wondered that. Individual healing work with her we do, but we don't do the grid work. That's done at the angelic realm. And that became active and online just recently, where they're actually really engaged in this now. Okay, as far as that may sound. Okay, so there's 3 parts, and for those who like to listen, there's a pause. After we do the healing and the clearing, there'll be a pause. Then there will be the part that is the soul clearing of the soul merges from the ancient times. And then there'll be another pause, and that will be the gift, because some people really like to be present and feel. We do this in sound because it lends a more rich experience, and it also engages the souls. Your souls engage your soul forces engine when we do that. And it's like a big soul forces engine out in the noosphere. Okay, very techie today. Okay, we're going to get out of the way. She's going to do the healing, and then most likely Tatiana will end this. And Tatiana knows if we put our finger up like that, that means that she can come forward, turn her mic off, and end it for Dr. Wendy. But we're just going to leave her mic on. And then we'll end the YouTube live stream. There's a lag. We're going to end it. We're going to, how do we do that? Yeah. We end the recording. That might do it. I don't know. This is a new experience for everyone. We'll get it figured out, and we'll just wait for we might have to sit silently and let the YouTube lag time go. We'll put that screen up so we have it. Okay, and then we'll be able to see if Tatiana is not talking, that she ended it. And then we'll hit the end stream button over there. Okay, we got it. Either way, we'll work it out. Okay. Here we go.
Hello. I am Tatiana, and I will be ending this global healing party for Dr. Wendy tonight. Remember, you can add questions in the comments section for this recorded live stream on YouTube, and they will be answered at the August Lionsgate Great Global Healing Party. Thank you for coming, and check out our new YouTube channel that